Welcome to the 4F, 4Fs with Jeff.
Welcome back to the 4Fs podcast. In this episode, we speak with the Senior Vice President for the Cloud Center of Excellence at Truist Bank, Michelle Foley. Michelle walks us through her life and career, from Marshall, Texas through Windows 2000 support, into 18 years at Microsoft and all the way to incident response teams that flew in to support a ransomware crisis in remote Canada. It's hard to sum up this conversation in just a few sentences, but I think it's safe to say that Michelle's story shows grit, practical security advice, and the quiet power of just showing up for people. Michelle's story is a reminder that the most powerful tools aren't always technical. Sometimes they're a clear sentence, a saved email from a loved one, or a willing volunteer hopping a flight to help a community in crisis. If you like stories about real technical work, moral clarity in messy organizations, and practical steps to make systems safer and people stronger, you'll definitely like this one. As always, if you find yourself with no more F's to give, I got you covered. All right, Michelle. Well, Michelle Foley, thank you so much for joining today. It's great to see you again, and yeah, really appreciate your time. The podcast, we like to start it most of the times with a similar question, and that question is, so Michelle, where are you from?
I was born in Marshall, Texas.
Isn't that where the Marshall High School, this infamous sad
We Are Marshall?
Yeah, We Are Marshall. Thank you. Yeah, we're like this. Is that no?
I think that was West Virginia or someplace. I don't remember.
Excuse me. Well, let's skip that part. So you're from Marshall, Texas, which is not the same as We Are Marshall, the football movie with Matthew McConaughey.
Right.
The book.
I guess.
Thank you.
It's
Marshall, Texas, which is okay.
It's claimed to fame. They used to have the tabletop where they turn the trains around. So it was a big center of commerce back in the day.
That's cool. It was so I'm not familiar with a tabletop. Like is this
it's just like a platform that they could spin and turn the engines around.
Interesting. And so was this kind of a hub of technology at the point? I mean, it was something that wasn't everywhere. So it was a key place for trains to be able to literally turn around, and a lot of people trains ended up there.
Yeah, Texas and Pacific Railroad. Both of my grandfathers worked there in Marshall.
Wow, I didn't know that. So, so you have a long family history there. Then it sounds like in Marshall, Texas. And you said both your grandfathers were there, and so you're born in Marshall, Texas, and is Marshall? Is it where? I should just, why don't I just look it up on the map?
That's all right. If you start in Dallas and you go east about 2.5 hours, stop before you get to Louisiana.
Okay. So it's what I was wondering is I was thinking it's not necessarily like a suburb. So you were in Marshall, Texas, born there. How long did you stay then?
Not that long. We moved, I guess, a half hour west. It's Longview.
Okay.
Until high school, and then my mother was transferred for her job to West Monroe, Louisiana, which is where I graduated from high school. I went to college in Louisiana because then it was in the state, and it was, everybody knows about college expenses, right?
Yeah.
So, and then I went to graduate school there also. But when you go to public school in Texas, you're sort of brainwashed and like compelled. Like you can leave, but you're going to come back.
Yeah, there's a strong sense of pride for folks in Texas. I've known, and it's a great state. I understand why. So your mom transferred for work. So what kind of work was your mom in?
She sold insurance.
So Marshall to West Monroe, and then stuck around in Louisiana, went all the way through college. So where you went to? Which school was it in Louisiana that you went to? Which college?
Now it's University of Louisiana Lafayette, but it was University of Southwestern Louisiana, I think.
University of Southwestern Louisiana. Okay. Now it's University. Okay. So that's a little, so you moved away though, South Louisiana. I mean, Monroe's North Louisiana. West Monroe's North Louisiana, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So you moved South Louisiana, go to college, and what were you studying down there?
Pre-med.
Pre-med. Okay.
Mm.
So you're studying pre-med, and I like this where this is shaping up because I think they could tell that there's a story here. You're studying pre-med, and now you are, but you didn't, you're not Dr. Foley. So
No,
you
it's
decided at
scary.
some point to not become Dr. Foley. So I mean, is there a story there?
Well, I was raised by a germaphobe, like a recovering germaphobe, and then there's just a few experiences that were like, this is not the path that you want to take. I'm sorry, you're sick and you have no clothes on. I'm out.
Yeah, I could see that being
Yeah.
a hard place to be.
All right. So I went to after undergrad, I went to graduate school at LSU Medical Center, or Health Science Center now, in pharmacology and experimental therapeutics. I love the coursework, the surgery and experiments on live animals, not as much. Yeah. So one summer, well, let me tell you what I was studying. So this may
Please.
help make more sense why I didn't stay in this. Central control of GI function. Like, I know it sounds like amazing, but not so much.
So would you help me out with what central control of GI functions would be? Because I actually don't know.
Oh, okay. Like the reflex mechanism that relaxes your stomach
Okay.
and that
Okay.
lower esophageal sphincter and like reflux.
Okay. That makes
Mm.
sense. Okay.
Right.
So you're studying that, and then it's not exactly what you thought it was going to be.
Um, I mean, yes and no, but
Okay.
to get tenure, you have to literally wait for someone to die. So that means the benefits and everything. Like, you don't get benefits. You could work a postdoc, you work in someone else's lab. But a fellow student in my lab helped develop um, a rat model for stress-induced ulcers. It's much harder to treat a condition if you don't have a model where you can show, oh, we blocked it. And he got his PhD, and the best job offer that he had was at Harvard Medical School for $20,000 a year. It's like, that wouldn't pay the rent. So he was engaged, and they stepped up when they were going to get married so that he could afford to live there. I was like, because I didn't have anything like that I could claim. Like, I developed this model in rats, and that's what I can look forward to, not paying the rent and hoping someone dies, and then someone said, well, you've done your qualifiers and, your all but dissertation. You could get a master's degree now. And I was like, okay, where do I sign up for this? So,
It's funny.
yeah.
So you decided at that point, you're like, look, this is a lot more work, and I don't necessarily like the idea of having to wait for a coworker or to die to make this, and then still, be struggling and not be able to pay the rent.
Right.
That's not ideal at all. No way
No.
does that work out. Okay. Yeah, I can understand that.
Okay.
Okay, so you make this decision, and you're like, you know what? It
Hmm.
turns out that maybe I have an opportunity to exit here and take a different path. That's a big decision, though. I mean, I'm guessing it was, right? You have this goal, you start down this road of pre-med,
Hmm.
and you decide to pivot before you finish. You get the good news, I guess, that you can pivot and leave with a master's degree. But gosh, was that hard to leave behind? You were leaving behind two things, I guess. This previous commitment that you thought that this investment that you thought that you're making toward becoming a doctor, and also then you're also giving up on a goal. And I'm making a jump here. Please tell me if this is wrong.
Yeah, no. You're right. I mean, it was. But I guess there are a lot of decisions. I guess I've struggled with at different times, like which college to go to, what major is this, the right thing for me, But there are times when there was a choice,
Mhm.
and I just knew, like, this is an opportunity, right? Um, one summer I had taken a C programming class that the head of
Mhm.
computer science or computer services at the medical center taught, and when they found out that I was leaving with a master's degree, they actually offered me a job. So there was an opportunity there, and I was really not happy with the program, or the career trajectory, as I saw it. And it was an opportunity, and I made many decisions in my life based on this is the path I'm on, but here's this other opportunity. Um, and
That,
it turned out to be a good one. Like, nobody dies if I make a mistake,
yeah. Less, less to also to the concern of, that are recovering germaphobe.
Yeah,
You can
right.
keep your keyboard much more sanitized than things work in this. So, but I think that's impressive to be able to, especially look, you're pretty young at this age too. So to be able to have the confidence in yourself to be like, look, this is hard. And, tell me if this also is wrong, but over a period of time, like working toward a fairly specific goal, that I could see how that could become a big part of your identity. Look, hey, I'm Michelle. I'm going to become a doctor. This is a big part of what I'm doing. This is, here's what's going on. And then to be able to pivot there and make that change and then have that confidence at a young age, that I just think that's really impressive. So tell us, you said there was the opportunity that came up. Can you talk a little bit more about what that opportunity was?
Yeah. So the School of Nursing at the Health Science Center there, they were looking for a junior systems analyst.
Okay.
And I guess the head of the computer services there felt, good enough about, how I showed up as a student and, whatever, that they said, go interview for this position, go talk to the deans of the School of Nursing and the senior IT admin. And they hired me. And I learned so much in that role. I knew how to configure like Outlook client, for pop mail and general computer use the apps, but I'd never installed the OS, swapped out hardware. But the faculty of the School of Nursing, most of them didn't have computers. They were sharing thin clients that were set up in conference rooms so they could check email on a mainframe, like TSO.
What's TSO?
It's some
Putting
mainframe
you on the
mail
spot. Okay.
application. Yeah.
So
I
TSO mainframe. Okay.
right. Um and then so I spent 3 months installing Windows 98 on desktops and then teaching the faculty, some of them how to use a computer, a couple of people how to use a mouse. Like if the mouse moves between the two clicks, right, it doesn't count as a double click.
Which for people who are listening to now, if you don't remember these days, then that seems like you had to teach someone how to use a mouse, But I mean, I remember learning to use a mouse, and I hated it actually. I hated using a mouse for a really long time. And they're way better now, also, right? I mean, those little things. Do you have to teach
This
people how to clean out
trackball.
the ball? Yeah, you had to clean out
Yes,
the.
that's what I was just thinking. Like you
Oh
rub
my
it on your
gosh.
jeans or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they were terrible. I mean, but
Yeah.
okay, so so you're teaching people how to double click, literally. Like, okay, if you move it between your click, then that's not going to work. But also, like, you clearly were exhibiting some. I can't think of the right word, but you're exhibiting some skills toward technology at this point because the administration saw that in you, even though I think you said you'd only taken one class that had a little bit of this
Yeah,
technology.
programming. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And so out of that, they're like, well, yeah, Michelle's got this. She can do this. And so you do that. So you're teaching people how to use a computer, rolling out mail. Was it, you said mail on Windows 98?
The whole thing.
A whole
I
thing.
mean,
Okay.
yeah.
Goodness. So you're rolling out Windows 98 by yourself for all of the administrators at the school?
No, I was the junior, so there was a senior systems analyst, I think was their role at
Yeah.
the time.
But I mean, okay.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not it. That's a good task. I'm just thinking, even with the technology
Mhm.
and tools we have today, that would be a decent effort, I think. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm way wrong, but
Well, we did it. There were like waves, you know,
okay.
maybe 40. They bought gateway computers. So they get a shipment of like 40 of them. there's a priority order for how, they're deployed. But I do remember, I think, was it 13 floppies that Windows 98 came on?
Oh my
Some of the
goodness.
computers wouldn't support a CD-ROM.
Yeah,
That's
wow.
yeah. So
That must have taken forever.
it did. I don't remember how long it took us to roll these out, but it probably took, I don't know, maybe an hour or so. Like next, next, next. Take out the floppy, restart, put the
Just
next one
assembly
in.
lining that through, just
Yeah,
click, click, click.
yeah,
Hand punching all of those terrible serial numbers, the product
yeah,
keys and everything.
yeah.
That one's wrong. I missed one letter. Which letter did I miss?
Right. It's like 25 characters or
Oh
something,
my
I think.
goodness. And you were doing this so they were coming in batches of 40, but do you remember ballpark how many PCs they had all in?
Um, let's see. I think there were like 70 staff, members of the staff. We set up a couple of different student labs. So I
So you
don't
did probably
remember.
100 PCs. Well, what I want to know is,
Yeah, maybe 120, 130.
jeez, what do you think the ratio of curse words to installs was on those having
Uh,
those product keys? I could just imagine sitting in your lab, just at least I would have there would have been
it usually
could have been a
took
good ratio.
me 4 times to type it in before I had it memorized.
You memorize it in 4 times? Yeah, okay, well then that's better. There's no way I'm memorizing that thing. It's maybe at the end if I had to type it all 120 times, then maybe I'm gonna have it memorized. But yeah, well that's why you're the person for that job. Gosh, I'm also not surprised.
Yeah.
That's impressive. Okay, so you end up rolling out Windows 98 for all these PCs, and that works. And you're like, okay. So I did you like this job? Did you like doing this work?
Yes and no. The senior analyst was a math teacher on the side, and he's a punch card programmer. He was good at what he did, but
Okay.
he wasn't he didn't always have the soft skills to deal with issues with the faculty who were mostly women. So I was sort of the ambassador to Glenn.
Okay. So Glenn was the
The senior.
senior analyst and who's also the math teacher. Okay. So you were the ambassador, Glenn. So you were the face and the voice of the project to others around. Okay.
Right.
But so how did you how did that end up then helping you move to your, I guess how did that lead into your next move?
Well, I guess all the science that I had made me pretty good at troubleshooting. So we worked really well together. I really liked working for Glenn. I learned so much. And the the Ethernet cables was like white, green, green, white, orange, brown. Like I can't remember anymore, but creating the cables, working in the little punch down closet,
Yeah.
and just troubleshooting all the things, swapping out hardware. We had what I called the boneyard, which is just like a collection of old computers. And then when we got down past all the new ones, and it's like, all right, well, let's see. This one's got a good hard drive. That one's got a CD-ROM. Swapping things out, upgrading RAM. We also supported a couple of servers, so I learned about Exchange, managing the distribution groups. When we lost one of the servers, and we had to rebuild it, do the Exchange disaster recovery, and so I learned a lot in about 2 years in that role.
Yeah. That seems like that's a wide variety of experiences for kind of your first consulting type of engagement, it sounds like.
Yeah, yeah,
That's wow, okay. So you were, that's a lot in 2 years. So you're in the role 2 years, and then over that 2 years, and then did you end up? Were you already done with your, like, I guess, so did you have your official master's degree at that time, or did you have to?
yeah,
Was there? Oh, okay, so they
yeah.
gave
No,
you a degree.
I left, and they
Okay,
were offering me the job.
okay. So when they got the job, you also got the degree. You get the degree and the job. That's a good deal. So you got the
Yeah.
degree and the job, and you move. You take the job. You're working there 2 years, and then where did you go after? What was next after that?
So I was married to what I'll call my college husband, the starter one.
Yes.
And he got a job at GTE before the Verizon merger here in
Okay.
Dallas. So I started, just reaching out to like contract firms. And before we moved, I had an interview with Volt Technical Services, I think was the name of it. And so I did the phone screen and a couple of other, I guess what they called the litter, called the herd for, applying. And the job I had applied for was Outlook support.
Okay.
As I had supported done so much with Outlook.
Yeah.
But before we moved, they're like, well, they've closed the apps for that. And right after we moved, the lady called me and said, do you want to go for an interview at Microsoft? I was like, interview experience? Why not? So it was only a couple miles from the apartment where we landed. And they called me back the next day. And I was like, really? It was a contract role for the surge staffing for the launch of Windows 2000.
So, okay. So this is a big time in tech, right? I mean, Windows 2000
Yeah.
launch it was a big product for Microsoft. It was also, well, was this pre Y2K?
Yes. So my first day was December 3rd, 1999.
That's jumping right into the fire there. So when
Mhm.
you say surge support, that was what that. Tell me. Well, I should say, tell me what surge support does.
Um,
And yeah, what was going on in December of 1999 from a support?
so they needed to hire people to get them trained ahead of the release. So they hired, I think, 60 people across two sites in Texas and the Charlotte site. So they could get everybody trained, and then they took the NT4, like the FTEs, off the phones so they could be trained, and left us to answer those calls. So there's some stories there, Austin.
Let's hear. I got to hear one now.
Okay.
You got to hear these. Let's.
All
If
right.
there's stories, I want to hear them.
Okay, so the first wave, there were 13 of us. And we went through like a month of training together. And then we show up. It's going to be our first day on the phones. There are 13 of us on the floor and no one else. Nobody. The first call comes in, and we've been together for a month, right, as a group. So the first call came in to the guy sitting across the aisle from me. So we all run over. Oh, our first call. We don't know how to answer the phone. Right? The big Polycom phones. Hello, hello,
Yeah.
hello. After 5
Totally.
rings, it rolls to the next person, which was me across
Oh my
the
gosh.
way. And it's like, thrum, thrum, thrum. We all run over there. Hello, hello, hello. I think it was the 4th or 5th person who had done a contract there before who knew how to answer the phone.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it's
But I
kind of
mean, that's
terrifying.
crazy that you got left alone after, you've been in training a month, but I mean, which is a lot of training, but also that's anybody, that's you don't really know what you're doing
No,
after
you
you
don't.
complete training of any sort.
Right. And they don't provide scripts or anything. So it was like, hello?
Oh, that's a rough experience.
It was.
All right, so goodness. Well, I mean, all right, so but you made it through. You made it through your first day. Do you remember taking your first call? What it was like? I mean, now obviously
Um,
you figured how to answer the phone eventually.
right. I don't remember the first call, but the first few I do remember, like not having confidence, like what to say, and they're like, I can't hear you. And like, yeah, that's kind of on purpose. I don't know what to say. But I think for 2 years I had like the industrial size bottle of Tums like on my desk, right?
Really?
Because I just have like a mini panic attack whenever the phone rang. Thank you for calling Microsoft. Yeah, it was so scary.
I could see that. So what do you think? What do you think it is that helps you through that? Right? I mean, I think when you're explaining that, having that feeling, that jumpy
Mm,
feeling,
mhm.
like you said, the mini panic attack. I mean, I still get that every single Sunday night. Like it's Monday when we're recording, and last night when I thought I have an interview tomorrow. I haven't done that many of these, but
Mhm.
I get that feeling.
Mm.
I don't know. I was just curious if you have any thoughts on that. Like,
I guess I didn't have, the easiest childhood, and you just had to do the things,
yeah,
you just take take a few deep breaths, and you still got to go. You still got to answer the call or stand up in front of the room and give a presentation. But I had lot of anxiety growing up, and even into well into the role at Microsoft, the imposter syndrome. And then I didn't come from the same kind of background as most of the people, or what I assumed was the background for most of the people at Microsoft. And for 2 years, I really kept expecting someone to go, excuse me, you don't really belong here. But we used to write solution objects, I think they were called. Like, there was no KB article to link my case to. So you write up, this is what I did, right? Here's the issue and how I solved it. When I realized people were linking their cases to content that I wrote, they're using my solutions.
Wow. That's proof right there. You see, and it's not like someone's doing it to compliment or necessarily like,
Right.
this is an actual use case. Hey, someone is using my work as proof of concept.
Mhm.
That's neat that you were able to actually see that and recognize it. I think there could be, I could see a situation where someone might see that and still not accept what's in front of them, being like, yeah, this is proof that this is at least a piece of data that shows, hey, I think I can do this.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that's cool. You mentioned your childhood was not the easiest. Is there anything? Tell me, we don't have to talk here, but is there something that you were thinking about kind of related to that I'd love to hear more about that.
So my parents divorced, I think in 75 or 76. My dad remarried um, a much younger woman who actually is the same age as my oldest sister.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, and then in the 70s in Marshall, it doesn't, matter who, you know, the circumstances of how you end up as a divorcee, but you are, people treat you differently, treat your children differently. But my mom, so I guess some of that grit or resilience I did get from my mother. She needed to refinance the house to get my dad off the loans and buy a car. At the time, she was working actually at Thicol, which was a chemical plant in
Mhm.
Louisiana. She had to have clearance for that job. And she went to refinance and like come back with a man to co-sign your dad or somebody. And she was like, no, I did forget this. We did live in the Shreveport for a little bit in those early years because thanks to Napoleonic Code, you didn't have to have a male co-signer. So she was like, "All right, mm, I'm going to go over here and do it. I'm doing all the things." So
Yeah.
she
No, sorry.
was
And I was saying, yeah,
got
please.
it
I want to hear the whole story though. So she was like,
yeah.
I'm not going to do this. And so the
Right
Napoleonic Code, for people who aren't aware of this, and I'm not that aware. I think what you're saying, I think the jump that I'm making there is that
in
because we
Louisiana.
purchased Louisiana from French, and so there was still a lot of that
Right, they
still
still have a lot of the Napoleonic Code,
okay.
and women had property rights that they didn't have in other parts of the country.
Wow. So I didn't know that. Okay, so that's really cool. That's kind of a silver lining there. And so because of that, your mother was able to be like, no, I don't forget you. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do it.
Yes,
I don't need it. I can do it myself. And she did.
yeah, and she did.
I love that. I really love that. We're getting a little bit ahead or maybe off, but two parts here. One is it seems like that influence probably had some positive impact on you and seeing those types of examples of resiliency from your mom.
Right. Yes. Well, just absolutely having her as a strong role model. You just do the things. There you. I'm the youngest of four, so you've got kids. You don't have the luxury of just not doing things.
Yeah.
Right. She smoked, so in her case, you light a cigarette, you say some swear words, and then you just do it. You know.
That painted such a great picture just now in my mind. Like I can just imagine your mother, I mean, strong, independent Southern woman, seeing a challenge, lighting her cigarette and saying, let's go. We can do this thing.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. So I have another story about
Yeah,
that.
please.
When I think I was 5. It was I think it was 1977. There was a really significant snowstorm. We didn't get a lot of snow in East Texas, but like in my mind, it's like, 5 or 6 inches of snow, but I was pretty young. Yeah, but we didn't have sleds and things like that because it didn't really snow. So
Sure.
she lit a cigarette, her and my brother went into the garage and she had some tools, I guess maybe had been my dad's. And she made us sleds in the garage.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you went sledding.
Yeah. We went sledding.
I love that because yeah, I mean that's your point. Like, and it's not like you're gonna Amazon Prime those things. You're
No,
not getting those things to your house next day. And what a once in a lifetime experience. They're probably they probably worked great. They were probably. I mean, what a core.
yeah.
That's clearly a core memory.
Yeah.
That's neat.
And made of plywood and like 1x2s or 4s. I don't know, but like
Mom was like, "We got this."
not just like scraps, but they were, sleds.
I love this. Um, related to that, the first story that you said, as a setting up, you talked about just taking a couple of deep breaths and moving on.
Hmm.
I'm a big believer and like a big fan of the idea of breath work in general. Um, was this was that something that you were actually taught? Like, take a breath, inhale, exhale, and then go after it. I mean, I didn't learn about that. That was actually something that really would kind of calm your nervous system or anything until I was way older.
I don't remember anybody. It was just sort of like, the adrenaline, anxiety, it feels like it's squeezing your chest.
Yeah.
So it was just like, get some air and then attack.
Yeah. But that ability to do that is, yeah, I mean, there's always two choices in that situation. You can either you can succumb to it, or you can move forward. And there's probably a bunch of other ones too. But to be able to choose the hard path, at least the short term hard path in that moment, that's
Right.
a lot of resilience. So, wow. I love both of those stories. Thanks for sharing them. So, okay. So do you think how did that resilience show up later? I'm guessing it didn't these aren't just experiences from your kid, right? Did you have any times where that showed up later in your
Oh,
career?
yeah, constantly. So it was early support days again at Microsoft. And um, a customer had downloaded, this is a couple of things here, right? But one, the first time I know customers lie to you. It's like, I'm not judging, I'm trying to help, but I can't. So he downloaded a time bomb version of Windows 2000 and he was getting an error. I don't remember the circumstances, but the only reference I could find to that in the knowledge base, other people's solution objects, was that it was the time bomb version and you needed to download it again.
What's a
And then
time bomb version?
it's I think 60-day free
Oh, okay.
trial.
Okay. Got it.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, thanks. That makes sense. So he had a free trial, but it was the time bomb comment is because it's going to, it's not going to work. And whenever the
Right.
time
You get to try it out because it
goes
was
up.
really
Okay.
different from NT4,
Sure. Yeah.
And I told him, download it again, and he said, well, I did that. So I went to talk to one of the tech leads and it's like, I can't find anything else on what this error means. And he kind of raised his voice and he was like, nobody knows what this error means. But, it was almost like yelling at me. And so it was really stressful. I mean, we took, crazy amount of calls, all these, people trying to figure out things, apps that weren't compliant, hardware that wasn't compliant. And so I went into the bathroom for a minute and I was just like, doesn't yell at me. You're not going to yell at me, right? You're not paying me for you to yell at me.
Yes, ma'am.
I was
Yeah.
just like, let's, calm down. Okay. And just go back out there. It's, the only option at that moment, it felt like the only choice. But I ended up talking to, I think it was either a coworker or a friend of the guy who said, oh, I did reinstall it. And he was like, oh no, I reinstalled it and it worked just fine. I was like, oh, he lied. Why would you lie? So it was my first experience learning that customers don't always tell you the truth.
To have that realization that not everyone's acting the same way that you're acting, that they're not necessarily going to give you all the information. That that adds a new layer of complexity to things. But I bet there's probably a lot of skills that are learned from that, right? I mean, you're now you're
Yeah,
thinking,
absolutely.
so okay, so how did the, before we move on past this, do you remember any of like the other like, what do you remember the most wacky call that you ever received, or was there anyone that really stood out from that besides that's just, I can't believe this is actually happening, this phone call scenario?
There's so many. Uh, like I don't even like know where to start. The what was that, hun? I'm sorry, I can't hear you,
Oh,
hun. What was that, hun? And I finally said, that was format C colon, sir. Yeah.
people are so, was that, so this is around the year 2000, but I mean, did
Yeah.
people, I mean, I feel like that kind of, did that probably sadly didn't, that kind of condescension didn't probably stop just around that time and not, right? I mean, did
No.
you have any of those experiences throughout? Did that continue sometimes throughout? I just, yeah, I'd love to know about it. It's sad, but I think it's worth talking about because it still
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, it does. There so there was a virus, like a malware outbreak. I don't remember which one it was because there are several that I went through in Microsoft where they had shut down the inbound tech support phone line. But the people who were already in the queues had been holding for hours. And the limit or the goal for how long your customers hold, the average should be 3 minutes or less. So these people have been holding for hours. And I think I'd already talked to like 15 people and I had to take one more call before I could like take a break for lunch. And it was small supporting small business server at the time. Small business server support. My name is Michelle. Can I get your case number, please? Yeah, I'm waiting for talk to the engineer. Yeah, that's who you got. Well, I've never talked to a woman in tech support before, and I was like, well, I can put you back into the queue, and you can hope you get a guy next time. And he was like, oh, no, 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 I'm good. But that was like the last time that marked the end of me being like freaked out or more nervous because they said something about not talking to a woman before. I'm usually talk to a guy. And I was like, okay, fine. My shit's working. So
Yeah. I love it. I love that. Okay, so you, I'm also I'm really glad that you kind of had that moment where you're just like, look, dude, this is me. I can handle your problem and I can also handle you. And so either do you want my help or not? And either way, like you said, my
yeah,
computer works fine. I'm here. I'm glad to
right.
help. But
And whether I worked his case or not, I got to take a break and eat lunch.
yeah,
So it's like,
exactly
fine with
that.
me either way.
Gosh, I love that. That feels like it was a somewhat of a pivotal moment for you, like one of those
Yeah.
moments where like
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. But the cool
Absolutely.
thing, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize.
Oh no, I was just like, absolutely it was a turning point. Or, like a level up. I got some extra hit points or something, experience points.
That's a great reference. I like the idea of leveling up. Okay, so you stayed. How long did you stay working in? And do you ever did anything ever turn up? Did you have any of those wacky experiences during Y2K for while this was rolling out? I mean, I know you started December of '99, but outside of not the phones not working, or you not being the phones not being able to be answered, did you have any of those wacky Y2K experiences?
Since we were brand new, actually, there were no contractors allowed on the property during the Y2K event.
Really? So on New Year's Eve, 1999, they were like
Yeah,
contract, no con only.
no contractors. Yeah,
Interesting.
FTEs only.
Do you think was that because of like a security issue, or was it because? Do you think it was because like we don't? It was like that we want to hold the responsibility with FTEs only, or do you,
I think, yeah, I'm not sure, but I
fair enough.
think
Yeah,
it was probably security, but I'm not sure. But they made it like a family event. Like they had, I think everybody was supposed to be there, but they had activities for families and, made it, I don't know, like a pseudo morale event. Like,
that's fun.
I mean, I guess I wasn't there, but
Sure.
at
Yeah. Good
least,
point. I guess.
right back then, they would had invested a lot more in morale.
Mm.
Like every time a product was being released, they had shirts, somebody's got cake. the day that Windows 2000 hit GA, they gave out shirts, cake, and we had mimosas and champagne glasses that had, Windows 2000 on it.
So you weren't there through the Y2K event, but leading up to it, were there any of those interesting, like people calling, stressed out, like my computer's not going to work tomorrow, or things of that nature? No.
Well, we weren't on the phones yet because
Okay.
we'd only been there for 2
Oh
weeks.
yeah, I guess you started December 13th. And yeah, okay, I get that.
But
Okay.
I do remember at LSU when I was still there, you know, because they still had lots of mainframes, worrying about the year. They had like all these like groups of people meeting they were using PeopleSoft and rolling that out. Like, what is this all going to do? What about all the, old ass, 386s everywhere, but, um, I think that they had decided for the most part they were going to shut down any non like critical infrastructure for the
Mhm.
medical center. But I guess another benefit that they had is it was between semesters, right? So, but they still ran charity hospital systems. So anything that didn't apply to keeping those running was just going to be shut down.
It's interesting. Yeah. So you did experience it then from, okay, that makes sense. So then how long did you end up staying in the support role as a contractor there
For a year.
for a year? Okay.
Um, yeah.
So December,
And
December.
yeah, I think December 4th of the next year was my first day as an FTE. So it was
Wow.
almost exactly a year.
Yeah. And then what did you move into a similar role as a full-time employee?
Uh, well, so after, I think in August of 2000, they let go the last of the contractors. They ended our contract, but they had been ramping down for a while, and so there were, I think, me and three others, maybe four others that had been doing Windows support that they brought back to do support for small business server, which was at the time, I think every enterprise product that Microsoft had except for like SNA server,
Okay.
Exchange, um, ISA server for proxy server, SharePoint, SQL. Trying to remember what else, but only for 50 users.
So that was the small business definition, was up to 50 users.
Mhm.
Okay. So you were doing small business support. So was it still similar? Like was it phone support?
Yeah, it was
Okay.
still phone support.
Okay. Still phone support for small business up to 50 users. Okay.
Mm.
Um, and then how long did you do? Well, I should say, was it a fairly seamless transition, or were the customers totally different and new challenges, or they
Well,
still lie to you? Is what I'm wondering, I guess.
oh, yeah, the customers are the same, but I guess one of the challenges with that is that we all supported every product.
That is a big change. Yeah.
Yeah, so you didn't know what you were going to get when the phone rang. It's like, oh, please be Exchange server, please be Exchange.
Yeah. I mean, do you think you could even do that now? I mean, do you think you could have a support? I mean, I guess you could do like a level one help desk support and then have it escalate. That's kind of what happens now, I think. But
Mhm.
I mean, gosh, that would be really hard to be able to be.
Yeah,
I mean, how
it
many
was, but
products? Sorry.
I don't know how many products. It included Outlook. We did networking. We did blue screen troubleshooting, Active Directory, like the repairs, like for
That already
that,
seems like too
cover
much.
that.
I mean, that's a lot.
It
Just what
is.
you described right now. That's a ton to know. To your point, there wasn't the similar knowledge bases that we have now. So a lot of it is what you know in your mind and from experience, from
Well,
troubleshooting and solving.
the knowledge base back then was pretty good because
Oh, it was okay.
you could search other cases of
Got
the
it.
solution objects that other people wrote. And then this small business server team was the best, I think, team I've ever been on, the most
Wow.
cohesive, and people had the different expertise. So we worked really well together. When we first went on the phones, the group of us that were contractors, the tech lead was like right there, not only helping with technical content, but just knowing what to say. How many ways can you say that I don't know without saying I don't know? Is any other role I've ever been in, if you could say, you know what, I'm not sure, but give me a minute, I'll find it. I own getting you a solution. It's perfectly acceptable. But if you say that when you answer the phone at Microsoft, that person does not want to talk to you anymore. I want to talk
Really?
to the person who does know.
Wow.
Yeah.
What I have two questions here. One is I want to hear after this about more about what made the team so. I mean, you made a really big comment that was the best team that you ever worked on, and that's I believe it. That's I want to dive into that for a minute, but also, why do you think it is that it's was so hard for people to accept? I don't know, but I'll find out. Give me a minute. I feel like that's
I'm not
just
sure. Yeah.
was it. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm also not surprised. Let me rephrase that. Maybe I'm a little surprised. I believe it, but it's interesting to me to hear that. Man, I wonder if it's part of that. Do you think it's part of it like an early, how people are emboldened to say what they want when, like on social media, like they'll make comments that are just, I don't know,
Yeah.
the things
I'm
they would never
not
say in real life. I
sure.
feel like do you think maybe there's something to that? Like this is because this is pre-social media. People I'll say what I want them on the phone. Like I'll just,
I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with, that we're talking to a woman and not a guy.
yeah,
I'm not sure about that. I
it's a
haven't
great point. That's probably more likely.
told, right. But my voice has gotten deeper as I've gotten older. But yeah, I'm not sure yet, but give me just a minute and I'll find out. Right. It's like, okay, Minnie Mouse, let me talk to at least Goofy or Donald. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably, you're probably right. That's probably more of the, yeah, I think, thank you. Yes. Um, so what was it, do you think that made was it, do you think that made the team so good? Was there anything that you can put your finger on that made it stand out as besides, you mentioned you all worked really well together. That obviously helps.
Mhm.
Was there anything else to the cohesiveness and your effectiveness as a team?
Sure. It just we all joked around a lot. You know, maybe we're similar points in our career for the most part. You know, I'm just not sure. I mean, of course, there were some personalities that didn't,
Sure.
that clashed. But um, let's see, I don't have it in here, but uh, this is sort of an infamous like story. One of the guys had one of those rubber chickens from Spencer's. Yeah,
Yeah.
squeeze it, let the air out. All right. Well, that sound used to drive me crazy. Um, but but it became like a thing. Like, let's harass MIDI. My alias was MIDI. So
That's
that's
a
what
great
you just,
alias
yeah,
because, right. I mean, because like,
the digital
when,
interface, right?
yes, yes.
Yep. So
Okay.
you just worry your alias. But I'd come back from lunch and that chicken would be, taking a nap in my chair. It's covered up with my sweater, or and wedge my chair under the desk with that chicken. So there's no way I could get my chair out without letting the air in the chicken. Or
Oh, that's
one
funny.
time I came back from vacation and I had a 3-minute voicemail from the chicken. You
I love it. I love that. You mentioned the alias. It's funny how those aliases sticks with you. I've talked with people who they reference coworkers. I mean, this is bunch of years ago. You said that you're telling the story from, and this is pretty common amongst people who are from a similar worked a handful of years ago. They reference themselves and their other coworkers. I reached out to
as
person
your
X, and
alias.
then they
Yeah.
reference their alias instead of the name.
Yeah.
And for those that are listening, alias is for those that are listening, if you're not familiar, the alias is it's your formal email address in your in the your Outlook. So like to your Michelle, right? Your alias MIDI, your email address would be midi@microsoft.com back.
Yeah.
So do you to the team though? Do you remember who was there a specific manager involved over this time that sets out? I was curious if that had
Yeah.
anything to do with the.
Yeah, at least at first. So the Jeff Penny was our manager, one of the managers, and the other one was Don Birdsong. But even after they moved on, we were still pretty close in that team.
Do you think? Yeah, it seems like there was good managers there, and also not a but an and that just the team, just something about it. You all just really connected. It was the right
Mhm.
people in the right place at the right
Yeah.
time, and the managers. It just
It
worked.
certainly contributed, I think, to the culture.
I like that. So how did you stayed working in small business support for a while? You said how long was that for you?
Let's see, I think almost exactly 6 years.
Oh wow, that's a good time. or a good chunk of time.
And then Microsoft acquired SoftGrid, Softricity, and they made a product called SoftGrid, which became AppV.
Oh, okay.
When they acquired that product, I moved to that team. Yeah. It helped.
Still in this, you're back in Dallas at this point, right? Or you're
Yeah.
not? No. Okay.
Yeah. No, I moved to Dallas in 99 and started that job.
Okay. Okay. So you're still back in Dallas. So they
Mhm.
acquire, they make the acquisition, you move to that team. And were you doing support as well, or were you doing something different?
Yeah. Yeah. No, still doing support. I think at that time, we were using the tool that company had been using to support. So there was, I think, 3 tools that I was using for support. Okay, Clarify, whatever that tool that they were using previously, because their customers were still in there, and NGIM, which was the next generation incident management, which became MS Solve.
Oh, yeah. I'm familiar with MS Solve, I believe.
Yeah,
Okay. But these are all ticketing tools, essentially, right?
yeah, CRM and ticketing. So,
But this is before Dynamics, so we're not using. Okay. Okay. So you're working on these ticketing tools, but you're supporting the software from the newly acquired company.
mhm,
Okay. And then
yeah.
is this year set? How long did you do that for?
I guess about 3 years. So I was made tech lead for that team. I was on the beta for the first Microsoft release of the tool, and and oh yeah, all right. They ended up giving us so many tools to support anything with the word virtual in it.
There was a V in it, you guys. You should
Right,
know that too.
right. MedV, which was we purchased Cadaro. It was so customers could run IE6 in a bubble
Oh,
on
wow. Okay.
yeah. Virtual Machine Manager. Hated that. Was a kludge.
What
Right.
was it that you hated about it?
Well, so it's like lift and shift of a VM into, virtual machine manager, or virtualizing and, image to move there. But there was no log of the errors. There's like a 6-digit, code error or whatever, but you couldn't see what was happening in the background. The logging was terrible. And the SME who was on the beta for it was like, "Well, here's your error message, dude. I can parse a log for the word error, but unless you can tell me what this code means, like, it's useless." There was horrible logging.
So I think with the scenario that I'm hearing you say is that you're trying to, have a machine, you virtualize it, you're trying to move it into a virtual machine, and then something goes wrong, and you know that something's wrong, but there's no logging that tells you where it went wrong. So you're just stuck with this something's not working on this virtual machine, and the error code that says there's an error, but really no other
Yeah,
information. So you're kind of like, you're finding this is a needle in the haystack situation at that point, because you're like, well, something's wrong. I just don't know what it is. Let's just
right.
start
Yeah, depending on
grasping
what.
for needles.
Yeah, depending on what happened, like, just start the process
Oh
over.
my gosh. What a pain.
Yeah,
That's a terrible experience. And I could see why you would hate that.
yeah,
Gosh.
yeah. But
Um, okay. I think you had more to say there. Sorry.
yeah, I was gonna say the last thing in support, or directly doing the support. In July of 2009, I got my first PM role, which was readiness for System Center products for
Oh, okay.
support. So that was global technical readiness.
And PM, were you a project manager or a product manager?
Program manager.
Thank you. I didn't.
Mhm.
So you were program manager for global readiness for System Center. What does that include? I'm lightly familiar with System Center, but
Let's
assume
see.
that my knowledge of the name is about as far as I know about
Okay,
System Center.
configuration manager,
Okay, System Center Configuration Manager,
right?
which
Operations manager. It became Microsoft operations manager. It became mom, but it was
also a great acronym.
yeah.
which I think System Center Operations Manager and systems SCCM and SCOM, are they that's software that people might use for, let me give a scenario. Tell me if I'm wrong. They might use it for managing software like at a data center. Is that how someone
Yeah,
might use it? Okay. And you were doing support for that. So someone, would it be someone from no, I'm sorry. You weren't doing support. You were
the
the
readiness,
readiness manager,
right, for
not product
training.
manager, not project manager, program manager. I'll get it. Um, okay. So you're doing training. So who are you training? Microsoft folks? Are you training? Is this
Yeah,
external
it was
readiness?
internal. It
Okay.
was for support, training for
Okay.
support.
Oh, okay. So you're training this. So you were now, though that makes, I bet those people loved having a readiness manager who had been in their shoes. I mean, because
Yeah.
it seems, yeah. So did you tell me about, I'd love to go into that a little bit. Let's hear about what your experience was.
I guess one of the biggest challenges was scheduling with the business, right?
Okay.
Sometimes they wouldn't give you the best resource to develop and deliver training. They would give you the one they could spare. So that was a challenge
What they would say, they would give you the one that was fair, you say?
that they could spare.
Oh, that they could
Like,
spare. I
because
see.
you
So when
need
you say, I
somebody
see.
for like 6 months or
Yeah.
so, maybe longer, to work with the product groups, give them feedback on the training. He's trying to get me to follow or to do something.
That makes sense. So you're trying to get that's a tricky situation. You got to influence the business there. And the business in this case is the product group, I think, is more, right?
The support delivery.
The support delivery. Okay. So you need the support delivery team to assign a resource to work with you as one, maybe as a stretch project for them to.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
To help develop the training, but they have to spend some time working with the product group, like what the features are
Yeah.
or how they work. And then they have to use them, and figure out what the training content needs to be. So it was an investment from the business for sure, but they didn't always give you the one who will be the right fit for that. It's who can we spare from service delivery, to for that length of time.
Wow. That, so that's a hard spot to be in. So then you're like, it's a situation of, you have to just work with the resources that you have, but also you still have your own accountabilities.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, I get the feeling that there was a lot of that probably took a lot of finesse. And maybe that's not the right word.
Yeah.
I don't know, that seems like it took some effort to sort out and do successfully, because
Yeah. Like I can't even like process just thinking through all the like sub themes. Right.
I can
But
imagine.
there was uh, so the system center support teams traditionally didn't allow their teams out of support to get the operating system training. Like,
Okay.
we're going to give you the manuals. Here you go. So this is about the time Windows 8 came out, and but I had negotiated like with the people doing Windows to fund a delivery at each site where we had people for Windows 8, and any other ones we wanted above that we'd have to pay. They were using an external trainer, so we'd have to pay that cost. But for months and months, don't forget, we had monthly manager, like all hands calls with the support delivery. We have this coming up. They're only going to cover one at each site. I negotiated this. I mean, every month, don't forget, this is coming up. And one of the managers was like, just put my people in it. We just close the loop on this and make it happen. Okay. Every single one of them pulled all but one person from those deliveries. From the three, there was one in Seattle, one in Las Colinas. When is that next delivery? When are you going to write me a check? So this is another pivot
Yeah.
moment right here when I realized they're not listening to what I say. They're not prioritizing training. So readiness is not the place to be for career growth. And the supportability PM for configuration manager took a new role, and there was a hiring freeze for at
Okay.
least 3 months. There were like so many open positions, like we need to do an audit of those. Hiring freeze. She reported to my same manager, and I said, "So, readiness isn't doing a lot right now. Could I do that role for 3 months while during the hiring freeze? Because I'm probably better than nobody." And he was like, "Sure." And they ended up giving me the role. That was the next big career change, which is one of my favorite roles was supportability.
So tell me what, if you can, what it was about your new role that you liked. That's that made it stands out. You're like, this is my favorite role. So was there something specific about it, or was it one of those situations like your team where just everything kind of worked together?
Well, taking insights from support. So I had a decade of experience in support. I'm pulling out insights for, the business, but also advocating for customers. Like this is a horrible experience for customers and solving issues for support. Like I had to win their trust
Yeah.
in this role because I needed them. I couldn't be a SME for, I started out, it was configuration manager. It's a huge product. Like it's like maybe 20 products in one.
Please continue.
Right. Winning the trust from support, the SMEs, because configuration manager really it was a huge product. So I needed their expertise to support some of the analysis and different things. But I guess one of my favorite stories about doing supportability and something I'm fairly good at, I think, is just boiling something down to the simplest possible message. So there's a feature in Configuration Manager, mandatory task sequences, where you could deploy like these tasks to like reinstall an operating system. You could roll it out. Well, it, Configuration Manager would allow you to nest collections of systems, and it was very easy to nest all systems in a collection where you're deploying these mandatory sequences to and format systems that you didn't mean to. The principal PM said for years and years, that's a user education issue. That's a user education issue, right? But people are, I mean, it's like handing a toddler a load of guns. It may not be the best analogy to use here, but all right,
Sure.
it was this
Sure.
came out. All right,
It's giving a lot of responsibility to someone who's maybe not as prepared for it as
right,
It's not setting them
yeah,
up for success is the takeaway.
right. It's
Yeah.
very easy, to even not even just like a mom and pop shop or inexperienced users. When one quarter we had between two strategic customers, they inappropriately formatted 5,000 systems
Wow.
because you could nest that collection and you would miss it. And then you come in and like your exchange server has been formatted. I did some research and I found a bank in Australia, they lost 9,000 systems to the same issue.
Wow.
All right. So I'm presenting these insights to the product group. And he said, as expected, that's a user education issue. And I said, okay, Mike, I will let you call the customer and you tell them RTFM. And
What's
he was like,
RTFM?
read the fucking manual.
You set me up for that question. I know. It's okay. It was well done.
Okay. And then he said, oh, so then they put down a pop up. There's a lot of infrastructure systems in this collection. Are you sure? And so it was at least something to help
That's a great win.
keep
So
custom.
anyone who's out there now who is an administrator for either of these products, if you see that pop up now that says there's what you just described, there's a lot of infrastructure. Are you sure? You can thank Michelle for that because she just saved you. Oh, that's great. That's great. But that's hard. This person was from the product team. Is that who, right?
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
product team, they have a lot, right? A lot of influence within the company. I mean, it's just, that's hard to make the influence, which is crazy because you're representing the customer. You are in this case, and that's a really great story. I love that. So how long did you end up staying in this role for a while?
They ended up and took supportability support away from that team because they didn't really fix much. It was really,
Mhm.
the bar was really high. And so they moved me just to security. And at the time, I felt like kind of a demotion, but
Mm.
right about then, Microsoft purchased a bunch of companies that became uh, the cloud security, like Azure Information Protection, Azure
Okay.
Security Center, Advanced Threat Analytics.
Oh yeah.
Um, Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection, which all these things have changed names, since then.
Sure. But important aspects and parts of the infrastructure that are still there now.
Mhm.
So you said they purchased them and then there was going to be, I think there was more to that.
Yeah, that was those were the products I owned
Oh,
supportability
okay.
for,
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So
which is a lot.
that is a lot. Yeah. So you own supportability for all those products. And did you own them through the rest of your time at Microsoft?
Until like 2017, I left
Okay.
for 6 months. I took an external job, but yeah, I did. And when I had come back, they had replaced me with 3 people, and they weren't covering everything that I covered.
Oh, man. That, what was that feeling like? I mean, to hear that news.
It was like I told y'all, right?
Yeah.
Should have listened to me. Like, here's some I told you so cards.
Get those printed, keep them in your back pocket just in case.
Oh, I bought a 1,000 count box.
Smart. I bet you ran out quick too. Probably have to buy
Yeah,
probably
I'm
those
sure.
pretty often.
Yeah.
That's funny. So you left for 6 months and then you took an external job, but I didn't realize this. So you ended up then coming back shortly thereafter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
A lady that I worked with in the product group for Windows Defender. Oh, I forgot. I own a Defender team.
Okay.
And,
Add another one. That counts
yeah.
for some more of those cards.
Right. And she had moved to DART, the detection and response team.
Okay. Yeah.
And a person I had worked with in CSS support referred me for this role. He pinged me. He's like, "Hey, we need you here. You'd be a good fit." So I'd worked with that lady, and then someone who was actually on the small business server team with me was on that team, and he was one of the interviews. So
I love that. That's nice. He knew and trusted you and had your relationship was there. I mean, because you'd already put in. I wasn't counting the years, but I mean, you had how many years of Microsoft experience at this point?
Total, it was like 18.
Oh yeah,
I
I mean,
think.
come on. So your relationship, your reputation at that point. I mean, you'd invested a lot of time, and
Yeah.
So
And another person I had worked with. Oh, I forgot EMET. There's a story here.
Let's hear it.
The Enhanced Mitigation Experience Toolkit.
Okay.
All right. So this one was fun. They deprecated support for the product. Like, we met with, I think, a member of the product team, maybe monthly. I'm not sure. It wasn't a huge product, but this one particular meeting, and they're like, the product team has been disbanded. The product's being deprecated. And we're like, I'm sorry, what? We have customers using it. It was in the STIG for the Air Force.
Oh wow. Okay. And the
Yes.
STIG, by the way, is I think it's a technical document that defines like acceptable operations for the government. Is that
right? This is what you have to use these. Like,
okay?
this is what, like,
I'll add a link to the definition of a STIG and we'll plug it in here. So yeah. So it's in the STIG, and so we have customers who are like counting on this, like they have to abide by the STIG. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we got no notice. It's not like, well, you need to move away. Like, it's just like, we're done.
Yeah.
There's
wow.
no more product team.
Okay.
I think he was Aaron Margosis. He was in the consulting services. He became our product group for like 3 months. He fixed some bugs on the product. And
wait, so this person, Aaron, he was not in the product group. He was in the services side, but because the product group was being taken away, but we needed to keep supporting the product. They were like, okay, give it to Aaron. He can. That blows my mind. And by the way, look, I'm not technical at all, but I've heard that name around. And so I'm guessing that this person is just one of those people. There are a handful of people at Microsoft, and you know them. You know what I'm talking about when I say this, but that are just, when you talk to them, they are so technically deep in their specific area and so smart and so capable that, I mean, that's a huge responsibility, but still, like, I'm guessing this was one of those kinds of people who is just really just incredibly, incredibly gifted and brilliant. And so he became the product group, one person product group. Wow.
Yep.
And what was the product again?
EMET, Enhanced Mitigation Experience Toolkit.
That's incredible. And it was still functioning. And so how long did this go on?
I don't remember because once he fixed those bugs,
Sure. Okay.
I think there were 3 of them. I can't remember what they are right now, but they eventually rolled the functionality into the product. But after I had worked with Aaron, when I wanted to come back for that role, he actually paid a visit to one of the, I think she was the M2 for Dart, to say like, you need to hire this person.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's always nice. So the M2 is, so your hiring manager, your direct manager would have been the M1, right? And so
Right.
your manager's manager would be the M2. Okay.
Right.
Well, that's quite a plug there. I mean, so
Yeah.
clear, and it clearly worked. You had built your reputation 18 years. You knew a couple of the interviews. This person paid a visit to your M2, and then you came back in this new role. Yes. Okay. So did you enjoy your new role coming back? Was it?
So yes and no. I learned so much, but really seeing behind the curtain of security was pretty frightening.
In what way? Like, I mean, is it just terrifying? You're like, oh my gosh, all this stuff is happening. We don't know about it, or was it
Just
stressful? Or
how okay, probably some of all of it, but how
okay,
good the people the adversaries, are the threat actors. I was there during Solar Winds.
oh wow, yeah, that was a big one.
Yeah, but before that, um, there were some attacks against Microsoft customers. I mean, we were putting in long, long hours for months and months. But
I've heard that team is when things happen, right? I mean, it's a crisis mode, right? It's by the time things get to the
yeah,
Dart team that you described. My understanding is that it's something big needs to happen. Like there's been there, there's trouble, I guess, or
yeah,
something. So there's an
there's
issue. It's
yeah,
no longer a risk. That's what I'm trying to say.
exactly. And they did have a proactive offering, like to assess security posture. This was the boots on the ground incident response. There's one of my favorite stories. So it's actually saving lives. Can believe it or not, but
I believe it.
and the only reason I'm telling the name of the customer because they shared it. Right,
Okay,
they became like
they were a
um,
case study for it.
right, but they were
Okay.
like volunteering. Who can we talk to because we want to tell this story?
Well, that's good. Okay.
The government of Nunavut in Canada used to be the Northern Territories.
Okay.
They had, encrypted with ransomware, but they use, I mean, all their phone systems use voice over IP. Um, it's, I don't remember how many islands, but it's spread out over a lot of different islands. There's remote. It was in winter. So they couldn't do
Okay.
emergency services. They couldn't issue public assistance, like food stamps. So they were legit worried about people like starving to death.
Yeah.
So they were using like paper and pencil, like dispatch, old school. And the only way to get there was by plane.
Okay.
So within, I think, 2 or 3 hours of that call coming in, we had people buying tickets, getting ready to go. We had to ask people to volunteer because there was no emergency services. The only way in or out, there were 2 flights a day in or out.
Wow. Okay. So
So
we'll keep
get
going with
them
this.
back up.
So you have people who are trying to volunteer, and you're like, we got to get people to volunteer, and they're
Yeah, it took almost a full day to get there. And
wow. And you said they're VoIP or voice over IP for their phones. So once they got there, was then connectivity somewhat limited, or was the VoIP the target of the attack? Or
no, but it was just all their systems that
okay,
managed all of that were
okay,
down.
were the so the VoIP systems were down. So were they once the folks who volunteered to go there and help this, were they then? I mean, that brings an extra problem.
To
How do you
get
solve the
the
problems?
critical systems back up.
Okay, so they're on site just doing that. But
Yep.
okay,
The
I get what you're saying now.
PFE, yeah.
I get it.
PFE had a lot of volunteers that were there also. Like they had just it's like all hands on deck. But they had a series of like room reservations because there's only like one place to stay. There's,
Okay.
and but the rooms weren't, you didn't get a block of room for 10 days. Like there were like maybe 30 reservation IDs, like the, this block of dates, this block of dates. So I ended up like lining those all out. So here's the 3 confirmation numbers, for this 10 days. Here's the next set.
Wow.
but which I managed for our team. So they didn't have to fool with that when they got there because they're traveling for like a full day, you know. So I talked to the hotel in advance, like this person has this set. So they just show up. But I ended up managing that for PFE also.
So the room, I mean, that's one complexity. The room reservations, you're scoring that away for the PFE, but I mean, there's a lot of other complexities for it. I mean, but you ended up working through it. I mean, what was
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could remember some more of the details, but it's all online because they
that's
were,
amazing.
that, you know,
Wow. I'm gonna find some information on it and see if I can throw it up here.
yeah,
That's really really neat. But I mean, but that's really impactful. I mean, if it's a community that had a ransomware attack, but you're really impacting people's lives in a positive way there.
right.
That's special.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
love that. Thanks. Okay, so you worked on the Dart team for a while. And overall, I mean, this is now your time at Microsoft. We're spanning. Should say, how long were you on the Dart team?
2 years.
2 years.
Once we wound down SolarWinds, it was like, you're doing God's work, hire young people.
Time to move on. So, but that's 20 years ballpark. Am I close on that? Okay.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not the same person that I was 20 years ago.
No.
Do you see the company? And I think, I mean, I didn't spend that long. I never spent that long with a company, but how was Microsoft 20 years ago to how it was when you left? Not 20 years ago, over your
Yeah.
time
Mhm.
with the company.
Yeah. It felt, especially at the beginning, like we want you to just focus on the work that you need to do. So I take away all, you know, anything else. So you don't have to worry about there's a group legal, the medical. At the time, they even paid for your spouse's insurance, even if they had a job.
Yeah.
They changed that probably within a year of me starting, but it was just covered. Just covered.
Yeah.
Company picnics and, swag for every release. But they did get a lot from you, It's really, especially I think in support. Like when I started in support, the US, when a call got to you, you just have it. There's no handing it off. You are on that call until the customer agrees to hang up, or it's resolved. And then the attitude was changed a little bit, .com bubble, burst. But still, they needed support. And then even during times like when they were reducing, going through rifts, it was still done. I think it's about business. So it really didn't matter, like, who you are, but they were choices made because of the business. But it seems like the choices being made for the business now are being handled in the most, like, how can we make it the most cruel way to handle that? Like, the performance thing. I think it was the beginning of this year when it was just hit, like, like, are you kidding me? Like, where's your integrity? So business decisions, but not handled with the same integrity that you would expect, from Microsoft. Yeah.
When you say earlier this year, are you talking about I read about there were some layoffs for like they call them performance-based layoffs that is that what you're referring to?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that first round, but people who say, I've never been on a PIP, I've never gotten less, never gotten a needs improvement, review. And then the next round, I was trying to remember, some details escape me at the moment. It was a little bit better, but still, what I'll just call rude, you know, with less than integrity. And then the most recent one, people find out they're being laid off in their performance review call, what it should be. You show up and you're expecting to see, what raise you get, what, your stock and a bonus. And instead, you're being let go. I mean, and that just feels rude. And that even I think it was the year before, it could have been 2 years before, we are going to cut like 10% of the workforce, but you don't know which areas of the business. And you just get an email for a meeting. It's like, okay. So you're just making your entire workforce afraid to open email for like more than a quarter.
So true. Yeah.
It
So true.
seems like
Yeah.
the most callous ways to do the things with this complete disregard for your workforce.
Yeah. I agree. I think that I, I've never been in a situation like that to make those decisions, obviously, but it it's just I agree that the feels like the culture changed is changing over time, and
Mm.
I understand from a business perspective everything that goes on. I also
Sure.
yeah
But there's
I
also,
agree with what you're saying a lot.
yeah, just operate with some integrity. It just doesn't feel like the same Microsoft. You know, I guess the ones where we're going to lay off 10% of the workforce or whatever the numbers were. I may be misquoting.
Hmm.
They announced that, and then they hire Sting to play in Davos for like 50 people. Like, oh, because clearly Microsoft is hurting. You
I
know,
remember that too. That was yeah, I remember that coming out. It's a
yeah.
good example. Do you do you remember you were at Microsoft during the stack ranking
Oh
years?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've been thinking about this. Do you think that the stack ranking? So for those that aren't familiar, the stack ranking used to be. I mean, the stack ranking used to be just a well-known process that happened every year, and you were assigned a number, and effectively, right? Michelle, you were there longer than I was, so tell me if this is. Correct me where I'm wrong here, but you were assigned a number, and if you were on the low end of the stack ranking, like everybody knew that the low percentage, whatever that percentage was for the year, was going to get severed, was going to be terminated. So my understanding is that some of that's still. Uh, some people say that it still happens under a different label or a different name, or
Yeah,
and somewhat
yeah.
informally. But I mean, in some ways, I
It's
think
just with less transparency.
yeah,
When they first started it, like in support, they had all of your metrics. How many calls you took? How many calls did you roll? How was your average, call time, average days to solution? What is your survey metrics? All the
mhm,
things. And you were just, it was just the list, right? In rank order. But then they said, we're not going to do stack ranking anymore. But not only did it still happen, it was just less transparent,
yeah,
because then those metrics were just available, less transparent. The articles were like, "Oh no, we don't do that anymore." They still they still called it that through like 2017. Like the managers, they weren't supposed to, but it was the same thing. Just yeah,
yeah, but just with less transparency, like you said,
yeah,
gosh, that's disappointing.
yeah.
So it sounds like, I mean, I know that a lot of people weren't fans of the stack ranking, but also, I mean, I guess if you're going to compare, and neither situation's great, but if you're going to compare the two, I tend to, you know what, I don't know what the right answer is, but in general, I like transparency. So
Right.
yeah, I
I mean,
tend,
there were some of the things that I didn't like about was you're competing with your coworkers and friends for pay and or job.
mhm,
It did not create, foster some of the best behaviors, because it's not at a team level, it's an individual level. It's like performance review Thunderdome,
yeah,
but at least you knew where you stood for the most part, you know,
yeah.
but it
That's
was rough.
it. Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, yeah, and you have a unique perspective in that you spend a good amount of time on both sides of that barrier there, both sides of that fence,
Yeah.
I should say. You love Microsoft. You're at Truist, right? I guess some folks, depending on where they are in the country, might not know. You're senior vice president of enterprise data manager. Is that right?
No. So that's just the HR titles. I run the Cloud Center of Excellence. It's really right now more of a governing body for workloads moving to the cloud for baseline security controls and compliance with those.
So what? So what is? Tell me if you can. By now from our conversation, it's probably become obvious. I'm not very technical, and by not very technical, I'm not technical at all. So, can you help me understand, from a layman's perspective, what that looks like?
Mhm. Okay. So if you have an app that you want to move to the cloud, you know, are you compliant with, right? Do you have, the the tooling, the policies,
Okay.
the third party risk management documents, are all of these things in line with the truest standards before
Okay.
you go there? Or if you want to add functionality to something, are your current workloads compliant before you expand what you're doing in the cloud?
That makes sense. So are you, so in this scenario, is it that there's a piece of technology that wants to move to the cloud, and whoever owns that piece of technology is coming to the center of excellence to get approval? Or
Yeah, to approval to move forward with the whatever deployment that
okay,
they've
that makes
got.
sense. Okay, so you are, and so in a consumer organization, this is, I mean, banks, I feel like by nature, it's a consumer organization, right? And so, or consumer focused organization. So I can see now though why, like I can map lightly why how your experience would line up directly to this. I mean, you have a strong background in cybersecurity, you have a strong background in support and proactive security measures and making sure and supporting consumer organizations. So I could see how this all lines up and gets there. So what are the big problems, if you can, or what are some of the problems that you're working to solve from a cybersecurity perspective, or from, and let me rephrase that, from a perspective, yeah, just what are some of the problems that you're trying to solve right now as you move to the cloud?
So there've been a lot of leadership changes. Some um, a cohesive strategy was missing for a while. Now we're just starting to get that. A lot of the tools, you know, we're just starting to really be integrated. Some of the controls are involve manual reviews. So how do we remove all of that and make it programmatic? So there's no subjectivity. We can just look at our tooling and our reports to see if you're compliant. Um, if there are risks, but a lot of it is involves like looking at the security blueprint. Are there any risks denoted on here? Are the data classifications, are they all correct? So we spend a lot of time on the back end reviewing these things and helping our internal customers get all of the documentation in line or become compliant. What do you need to do to be compliant? Okay, well, let's go talk to these people, or you're missing these things. This is what you need.
So there's, it sounded like obviously applying to the, I'm thinking of the right way to put this, but you're this is the word. Thank you. Not, let me rephrase this. So a lot of it is helping enforce the standards that are already there. It sounds like, and also
Absolutely.
um, removing opportunities for, what's the right word for?
Or just for error,
Yeah,
for
there you go. Thank you. Remove opportunities for error.
human
You already said it. Yeah.
error,
Okay. Makes sense.
right?
Yeah.
And not being a blocker to the business, right? Because they have to move forward, but enabling them, not just saying, nope, you're not compliant. You shall not pass.
Yeah.
But let's get you what you need so that you can move forward.
Sure. I mean, that makes sense. So, and I could see that from your personality in general. Like, hey, this is a problem that we can't move you forward, but I'm not just going to leave you on an island here to figure this out on your own. It's like, it reminds me of what you were saying, like when you picked up the call, like you're on the call until it's over. Like, oh, well,
Yeah,
you want to move your product to the cloud. I'm on the call with you. Let's figure this out.
yeah,
Let's bring this all the way
exactly.
through. I like that. What is the consumer's responsibility in here? And what I mean by that is if you know what you know now, as with your background, and now you know me as I'm being not the technical person that I am, what are a couple pieces of advice you could give to me to help me stay more safe as someone who, it lives in a digital world and, works with institutions, not even necessarily, it doesn't even necessarily have to be a bank, but just in general, what are some tips, things that I could do as myself to keep myself a little more secure? And also then, like as being a good member of society, I also don't want to open up a risk for a larger institution that I
Yeah,
work with.
yeah, and that's a good call out. I guess the big one is don't reuse passwords. You
Okay.
know,
Are
between
you,
different applications.
a fan of a password manager?
Yeah, I mean
Okay.
the password complexity requirements. You know, get more every day. You can't remember them all.
Yeah.
So absolutely use a password manager so that you can have separate passwords and you don't have like a logbook, where you're trying to keep track, which back in early days, I did that because then it's not digital. It's not in a file labeled passwords
Sure. Yeah.
on your computer. Don't do that, by the way. That's one thing people scan for. You know, um,
Okay.
um, keep apps on your phone up to date.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I don't think about that. That's a good one. Is this also just because you're getting quick security patches?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It's once a vulnerability is published or like an update is published, you've got about 24 hours before it's been reverse engineered, if that.
Wow. Opening my phone right now to see. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. I'm close. Most of them, but there are a few. That's a really 24 hours before. So if I'm not keeping them up to date, every day, then that's opening up a window
Yeah,
for a bad
potentially.
actor.
Right. Even if it's just a game, or something, IMDb, anything that you sign into, if, on your phone could be an
Oh
opportunity
my
to
gosh.
compromise your device.
Wow. Wow. Which, and is it, I don't know, like if one device is compromised, does that then open you up for your other, I guess kind of probably
Sure.
connected,
Well,
right? So,
if okay, so I compromise something on your phone, and depending on I guess the nature of it, can I get other passwords? Can I
oh
get
yeah,
access to your email? If I have access to your
that,
email, I can reset any password I want,
yeah, that's a good
pretty
point.
much. Right. But depending, you need to use multi-factor authentication, right? Email and any financial app at a
Multi-fact.
minimum.
Are you a fan of like, do you use like do you use like a multi-factor authentication app, or do you prefer like I think I know the answer. I guess I know the answer to this, but
Mhm.
or is any, from your view, any authentication method, okay, like
I think
text message, two-factor or whatever.
yeah, so it's better if that's still an option. Some places that's the only option, depending on what the app is. But the authenticator apps are better. But if your only option is SMS, then use that.
Sure. What are your thoughts on like the physical keys, like the physical two-factor authentication keys?
I I think for physical like laptops and things,
Yeah.
you need those. I mean, the old adage, if you build a better mousetrap, someone's going to build a better mouse. It's true. Like our adversaries are really good at what they do. They're highly motivated, and well funded.
Yeah. That's a good point.
During SolarWinds, I mean, we found that they were editing USN journal entries on the disk, which is not easy to do. Like it should be, you know, I guess I always thought that those were not changeable, but it turns out that they are.
What's the USN?
Um, it's like an on disk journal entry of like changes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
So if you can edit, if it's a journal of changes and then you can edit those, and so if it's a journal of changes and you can edit those changes, then you can make changes. You can essentially
you can
erase.
change the story.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So they're highly skilled.
Wow.
You have to stay up with current methods for authentication and authorization, like identity management, which I think is it's not just me, but the next wave of, you know, securities protecting identities.
That's, yeah. That makes, so what, any other tips on what I could do? I'm liking this now. I'm feeling like I have a path forward to be a little more secure in my daily life.
Never use a default password. I just got a new like network, like a mesh system. Don't leave the log on like as admin, right? Because if you have the name of the account you're trying to hack in, log into, if you
Mm-hmm.
have the account name, you have half of the story.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. But that's, you don't always, I feel like I need to think through that because I agree with what you're saying, but what you're saying got me thinking as I remember, I'm just thinking through the different Wi-Fi connected devices that are in my house. And I was like, well, which ones have I changed the password on? And are they all changed? Do you think sometimes I might feel like I'm a little paranoid, but let me give you a quick example. I don't like to connect everything that I can to the internet. I
Same.
generally try to avoid it. Like there was like a microwave that I was looking at, and it was like, you can connect I was like, I do not want to connect I do not need my
Why?
microwave connected to the internet. I don't want it connected. I mean, do you think that at some point, some people are like, I don't care. The convenience is there. That's all I matter. But for me,
It's attack surface reduction.
I like that. I like that idea. It's an attack surface reduction.
If you don't connect it, right, it can't be attacked. I mean, if somebody gets on your network, it's just like with the company, they can move laterally until they get what they need to, collect all the information they want or use your LinkedIn router as part of their botnet army,
Yeah. That's crazy. That's a really good point. I like that. I think that idea of decreasing, I think that for, someone not technical like for myself, that it's something that I can really visualize and understand the actual attack surface and think, okay, how can I make this smaller? I think that's really, thank you. That's a great tip. Shifting just a little bit here, I saw through our conversation so far, a handful of things that you talked about, kind of, attributes that I could see through the stories that you're sharing that now line up really, really, really well to this next part, which is you're a person who likes to, it seems like your personality and the person that you are has a tendency to give back and serve. And I can see that in your volunteer work. I mean, I can just tell by the way that you talked about, wanting to serve your customers and help people that you and your team and work with them. It feels like this is a core part of you. And that makes a lot of sense, because when I'm reading about the volunteer work that you're doing in your profile, there's a lot of it. I mean, I counted how many, let me read them out. I got the Genesis Women's Shelter and Support, Microsoft DigiGirls Technology Camp, DFW Humane Society, Women in STEM Leadership. And plus, you're the second person I've spoken with who's involved with an organization called Cyberjitsu in Dallas. So they must be doing something special at that organization. You're giving a significant amount of your time to community efforts. Can you talk a little bit about those, why that's important to you? And is there something specific about those organizations that speaks to you? Or I'd just love to hear about that a little more.
I guess with the animals, all the pets that I have are rescues.
Pretzel himself.
Yeah, Pretzel. And I have he's sleeping right now, but a 100-pound blue heeler Rottweiler mix that I rescued from my son's school. He was pinned in by the drop-off traffic. I think Colin was in first grade. And he was just looping the school, blocked in. And I got out of the car and I sat down and I talked to him, and he came over, he let me pet him. And a lady pulled up, she had a collar and a leash. I can't believe that dog's letting you touch him. He's been running around our neighborhood for 3 days. No one can get near him. And I was just like, I have a dog now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay.
What's the dog's name?
Shadow. He's
Shadow?
my permanent shadow.
Oh, that's cute. And you said it's Blue Heeler?
Mm-hmm.
Like Bluey. You ever seen that cartoon Bluey? Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Like, yes, I have a dog now. Oh, that's funny. And so when your son was in first grade, so this has been this Shadow's
like
your shadow
10
for
years
a long time.
or so.
Yeah, goodness. Oh, so you have a connection with animals there, so that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
You love your animals.
They don't always have a voice of their own. I guess that's changing now with they can talk, the buttons, but they need people to advocate for them.
Yeah. So that connection with it, do you think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier about how, you watched your mom be a voice, and she was a strong enough voice to advocate for herself, but there were a lot of people in that situation that weren't. And so and some of the other experiences that you mentioned, but I mean, maybe I'm making a jump here, but that connection of having of seeing a need of something that needs a voice and then being able to help
Mm.
facilitate that. Is that too far of a jump?
No, no, I think that's exactly it. So I mean, I've participated in a lot of the orgs, that you mentioned. Um, the women's shelter, that was something my mom and I did. Like it was Valentine's Day, and thought, this is a weird holiday. And then I thought through like who is this holiday like the worst for? And I thought, oh, maybe domestic violence victims. So, and it was, I called around and found a place that would let us bring, you know, um, s- gifts or whatever for the people at the shelter. Um, so that morning, my mom and I cut fresh flowers, and I don't remember, like, we had cut flowers for, I think, 30 something residents at the shelter, activity books for the children, and, let us take them there on Valentine's Day. It was on a weekend. And so that's sort of where that came from.
That's cool. Wow. I mean, how old were
Uh,
you when you did this?
uh, I don't know, early 40s. I don't remember
Wow.
exactly.
But
Yeah.
that's special. That's really, really neat. So, and it's wow. I bet that was really impactful.
Yeah.
I like that. That's neat.
Yeah.
So then you also do a good amount with technology, and some of it was well in a handful of different ways, and that makes sense. I mean, you're clearly you have a ton of great experience, and so is how did you come across those organizations that you've connected with?
Well, the women's Genesis Women's Shelter. I just did some research and like called, hey, would you let us bring these things? I didn't want to just write a check. I wanted to just be a little more personal.
Yeah, that's neat.
The DigiGirls was, I don't know if they still do it, but sort of an outreach program for to get girls interested in technology. And I don't remember how many years that I participated in that one, but right from the first time it was offered in our area, volunteer, I gave keynotes once, I helped with the planning another time. So
That's cool.
probably
And this
15
is always
years
just from
anyway.
you. Sorry, we had a lag. Please say that part again, please.
I think probably 15 years with Digi Girls.
Wow, that's a lot of really impactful lives or lives you've been able to connect with, and a, a good impact there. Is that you told me about a story about someone that you met and mentored? Did you meet them through DigiGirls?
No, but there is an interesting tie back to that. So she participated in that program in Washington, and I met her. She was a contractor supporting Azure Information Protection, and I was the Supportability PM.
Okay.
About a week before this one call where I met her, I read an article about language women use that undermine their credibility, such as saying, I'm sorry too much, and just. I just have a question. Excuse me, I just have a question. So we're in this call. She's supporting, same product as I don't know, it was like 5 or 6, FTE SMEs. And she's like, "Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. I have a question. We were doing a case triage, so she wanted to discuss one of her cases. And after the call, I just was winding up. It's like, hey, if you have a few minutes to stay on, it's like, hey, this is what my role is. This is how I support you all, and never do that shit again. You know, you say, I have a question. You were doing the same work as the FTEs. There's no apology. And we've been friends, and I've mentored her since then. And as those roles were winding down, I mentored her on her resume and practicing for interviews. And then the other SMEs, I was like, look, she's doing great work. She's interviewing. Send a letter. Here's the hiring manager's name. And she got the job.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, but she was there. It was her doing the things. It was her work experience. But when she called me to tell me that she gotten the job, she's like, this is you. It's like, no, I just helped. But, both of us are very tearful calls. Like, I don't know how I'll ever repay
Wow.
you. Well, you just did. But she was interviewed as part of I guess, a DEI podcast initiative that Chris Capicella was doing, and I got to travel there to be with her during the call. And she brought up she had the DigiGirls letter where they sent her the letter that she was attending the camp, and she said, you know, they introduced her to the technology, and she was so excited, And then she said, "This is a company that I want to work for." And then there she was, um, and there wasn't a dry eye in the sound booth or anywhere.
Wow.
Right? It was an incredible story. And what was I going to say after that? I forgot.
That's a beautiful
Um,
story.
it is. So she was a DACA kid, and
The DACA is
the
that's an
Dreamers.
immigration thing, right?
Yes,
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Wow.
right.
So I mean, that's what an underdog story. I mean, I hope that's okay.
Yeah,
That's really
this
neat, and that's
it gets even better.
yeah. Please.
Microsoft. Well, Cece is incredible, right? So she's a force of nature, in and of herself, but she just needed some confidence. Like, you can do this work, right? You are doing this work. But Microsoft sponsored her green card, and they went and presented the case for preservation of the DACA program in
Okay.
front. They argued in front of the Supreme Court. She got to travel with them
Oh
for
my
that.
gosh. Wow.
Hmm.
So she went to support the case for
She
th-
traveled with MS Legal. Yeah.
that is impactful. I mean, that's talk about that's quite a ripple approach. I mean, that
Yeah.
can impact, I don't know in the number of people, but a lot of people in passing that legislation in a really positive way. That's incredible. Wow. You're not kidding when you said that she's a force.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Thanks for taking the time to break that down. You learn
Mhm.
a lot over your career. Something I was thinking about just now is like, what's a piece of advice that you could give to someone who is like that person, like, like a younger person, s- especially, you know, es- especially a younger woman in their career who is facing some of those similar things that you were facing, or dealing with some of the confidence issues that you described from people that you've mentored and otherwise. What kind of advice would you give them? Just
One thing that I do, and I tell other people to do that, whenever anyone sends me a thank you, even if it's just like a team chat, like, "You were awesome, you support me the difference," whatever, save that. I save a screenshot or print the emails to PDF and save them, even no matter how small it is. But if I read through those, every now and then, like, it's like, "Oh, yeah, that's right. I did these things. People don't. My mom passed away several years ago, but I was going through her papers, and she still had some of the emails that I sent her from my early customers, right, and support, where they thanked me, and she printed them out and saved them. So, I mean, just, you know, keep track of the things that you do that impact others, and then surround yourself with people who will support you, the cheerleaders, the ones that are happy for your successes.
I like that. I think there's something to that of being able to look at a body of work, and it's easy to forget in the moment, especially if you're having a hard time or you're experiencing a little bit of I don't know, maybe a negative influence of some sort. But if you can have building a system, I like this because it goes to what you're describing, the work that you're doing now of building systems to avoid just building systems to ensure success effectively by building not a dictionary, but just building a database
Mhm.
that shows you that's able to show and reference. Okay, look, I've done a few things before. I can have this. I have experience. I have success. I have a few wins under my belt, and these are the people that have. These are the things that I can look to. I think that's a way to validate that confidence. I really, really like that approach of being able to have something already built ahead of time that you can look at in that moment. Um, Thanks for that, because it's both a piece of advice and it's also very tangible and executable. This
Right.
also lines up with your personality. And what I see from you, it's extremely effective and useful. Thank you. I've said thank you 3 times in the last 5 seconds, and so let's put that in the database. I have a little bit of not a little bit of a lot of a tangent question that I want to ask, which is, uh, you told me lightly about your interview on the Today Show and your struggle with this. How on earth did you end up on the Today Show?
So the insomnia had gotten to like a critical mass, and I didn't know exactly how bad it was. Somebody gave me a Fitbit,
Okay.
and then it's like, oh wow, on this night you slept 2 hours, on this night 0, on this night
Wow.
40 minutes. But it was in fact, my memory, anxiety levels, and performance at work.
Yeah.
And I opened the provider directory and I searched for sleep, and I called. Well, let me back up. My doctor said, "Well, let's make sure it's not like sleep apnea. Let's start with this." So we did all the referral paperwork needed, and when I called them to make the appointment, they're like, "Do you snore?" I was like, "Lady, I'm not sleeping enough to know if I snore." You know, but they
Yeah.
refused to make the appointment, and I was just like, "What the fuck?" You know. Um. So I did a search for anybody to do sleep. And the first person who could see me in a reasonable amount of time, which was 2 weeks, and I was like 3 months, I was like, nope, I just hung up, called the next one. When I showed up at this appointment, I did not know what this man did. I just know that he was going to, he get me in soon. He did cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia,
Wow.
and which saved my life. Um, um, I offered, like, he was teaching at Southwest, I think UT Southwest Medical Center. If I can come be like a, quality of life, talk about how much difference that you've made, how this, you know, form of therapy saved my life. And then there was a lady was writing an article for the Dallas Morning News and interviewed me as part of that. And one of the producers from the Megyn Kelly show saw that article and reached out to me about being on her show.
And then you just go on the show. And so is it okay if I link to that interview?
Sure.
Okay. I mean, so tell me can you also tell us about kind of what the CBT process was like and CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, right? And that's about as far as I know about what CBT is.
Yeah, it did like tools for dealing with things, but less focus on the why. Like, we're not going to talk through how you got here. Let's just talk about how to fix it.
Okay.
Behavioral changes that you can make, to deal with the thing. So we started out just tracking when do you go to bed, when do you
Okay.
wake up, how much coffee do you have and when. And so I think we worked together for about 8 months to get the schedule. So we'd make a couple of tweaks and then analyze the data and then make a few more tweaks. Um, I was sleeping if I did sleep from like 9:30 to 11:30 or 9 to 11, it's like, okay, you got to stay up later, right? No coffee afternoon, early morning bright light because it helps reset the clock.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
No screens in the bedroom.
Okay. Yeah.
Just you only sleep, in there. Exercise, but not after like 7 o'clock. No TV after 10. No to-do list after 7:30.
Wow. Really just setting yourself up for getting ready for your sleep.
Right. Yeah.
Was that a big mental shift? I mean, you're a very busy person. I mean, so
Yeah.
I'm guessing that to shut it down at no to-do list after 7 o'clock that was probably a big
Well,
shift.
yeah, but I mean, once when but I had to. I mean, I couldn't. Almost fell asleep and almost hit a parked car. Like a few blocks, from the elementary school. So driving was dangerous. You know, um. So, but it's what I needed to do. I had started working from home, so the computer was always there. I could, go and do another thing. And then when I wasn't sleeping, I could send work emails, right? Or, oh, remember something I needed to do. But all of those things I was doing to entertain myself when I wasn't sleeping just made it worse. So it was a shift, but is what I had to do.
And it worked.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it sounds like it worked. It sounds like you're
Yeah, I still struggle sometimes because, the to-do list, all the things I gotta do,
sure.
but I have the tools now to help, to deal with it.
You're sleeping better, so your memory's better. So then the to-do list in your mind is better. And so now you're
Mhm.
spinning your brain sometimes. That's
Yeah.
not, yeah. But I mean, it's not, but overall it's been a win. And what a amazing experience. Well, look, I really appreciate that. Thank you for staying on extra time with me. I really enjoyed getting to hear this part of your story. This has been awesome.
Thank you for this opportunity, one, to meet you and get to know you, but just providing a forum for people to tell their stories.
This is great. Well, that's the idea, right? You have an amazing story. You've lived a really, really cool life. You are living a cool life. And I sure appreciate, this is my favorite thing about this whole thing is that I never would, I don't, like maybe someday you and I would have met. I don't freaking know. Maybe we have crossed paths at some time. I don't know. But I love being able to hear this part of your story. So thank you so much for trusting me with it. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I've enjoyed it. Thank you so much. All right. Bye.